Well, here we are, ladies and gents. It is, of course, the preview show brought to you by SBK, and you'll be delighted to know that horrible international break is gone. It's over with. We're now looking straight ahead to a beautiful weekend of championship action, and we'll kick things off with our game of the weekend, which is on Friday night. It's the clash between Leeds United and Sheffield United. Leeds are 4-5 to win this one with SBK. A Sheffield United win is 18-5. The draw is 27-10. And Justin Peach, this is a proper how's your mother, isn't it? Not just because it's a Yorkshire derby, not just because it's the team who's won the most points so far against the favourites for the title, but also because it's the Michael Tong derby.
The Michael Tong derby, the Neil Warnock derby, the Lee Bromby derby.
There's been
Rob
quite a few.
Did he go to Leeds? Rob Cuslook?
Rob Coslook, not sure. Rob Hulse.
The Andy Gray derby, the Rob Hulse derby.
Been a bit of crossover, hasn't there, between these two?
Kevin Blackwell derby.
The Kevin Blackwell derby. Who could forget? And I'll tell you what, Justin, this is a proper juicy one, isn't it? And I tell you what, another reason why it is because of some alleged mind games from back in the summer, because Leeds were reportedly interested in Gustavo Hamer, of course, of Sheffield United. And it was claimed by some with their fingers in pies at Leeds that Sheffield United didn't appreciate those links, so they allegedly put out a story that Leeds were willing to offer Joel Pirro in a swap deal and make it look like Pirro wasn't wanted by Leeds. That's what was claimed by a fairly prominent Leeds United journalist a couple of months ago. Just claims. But anyway, back on the game itself, Justin. This is a really tough one to call, isn't it? Because two very good teams, we know that, and yeah, it's a really, really tricky one, I find, trying to narrow this one down as to how it's going to go.
Yeah, trying to separate these two teams is difficult. Sheffield United have shown that they're very tough to beat this season because they're unbeaten. That's a big giveaway. But also when you break down the statistics of this fixture, both have got the lowest XG against. So you've got Leeds and Sheffield United here. I've got the best defensive records in the division. So if you've got Leeds, for example, they're going to have to be very savvy in their approach play to break Sheffield United down. And obviously, Sheffield United under Chris Wilder, they're probably going to want to sit back a little bit, soak pressure up and take the opportunity when it comes. That's why it's a very tough one to separate. It's going to be a tactical battle between two managers who have one way of playing. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah, well, Sheffield United are not only the unbeaten side in the Championship, Justin, they're the only side unbeaten in the whole of the EFL. And they've won the most points in the division so far and would be top if it wasn't, of course, for their 2-point deduction. Just 3 goals conceded in 9 games so far, which is a pretty ridiculous record, isn't it? And look, of course, Leeds away. One of the trickiest games they'll have all season. But based off how Sheffield United have started, they'll fancy their chances, won't they?
I think being as defensively good as they have been this season, they'll be confident of coming away with something from the game. In addition to that, Leeds have displayed some weaknesses and lapses in concentration, if you like, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a moment, where they have allowed opposition in and they failed to kill games. I don't think Sheffield United are the type of team where you can lack a ruthlessness. So I think with Sheffield United, and as well as that, we've not really seen them get going yet. They've been very good at one end of the pitch. They've been very good at keeping their opposition at bay. And as well, you know, the 2 of the 3 goals they conceded was in one game against QPR. It's worth bearing that in mind. So they've been incredibly efficient throughout the season. So trying to break them down is going to be very difficult. And I think when you've got a tight end at the back, you're just going to wait for one chance, aren't you, to come? And I think Sheffield United, Chris Wilder's the sort of manager who's going to bay in that. You go back to the game years ago when David Brooks scored the winner against Leeds. It'd be that sort of fixture, I think, for Chris Wilder.
Good memory. I forgot about that. Yeah, and well, it's got to be said, Sheffield United will probably be well aware that if they keep the 2 Leeds wingers quiet, Leeds can be frustrated, and with their defensive record, Sheffield United, they'll back themselves to keep the 2 wingers quiet. And then we all know about the players who can hurt Leeds, you know, your Gustavo Hamers, your Callum O'Hares. I mean, Jesserun Raksaki is coming off the back of an incredible performance against Luton. And these are players who could cause a lot of problems for Leeds. And if Sheffield United can keep Leeds at bay, then they have the attackers who can do the damage at the other end. And of course, the last time we saw Leeds was when Ilan Meslier dropped that absolute howler, which feels like ages ago now, doesn't it? It does just feel like so long ago. I can't believe that's the last time we saw Leeds United in action. And I suppose the question has got to be asked, Justin, what do you reckon that would have done to the mindset of the Leeds players? Because they've had to stew over 2 drop points for the past couple of weeks now.
I'm going to bring up a bit of an anecdote. When we were growing up together, you used to play in goal, didn't you? And I was a defender. And
where are you going with this?
Yeah, every goalkeeper has a clanger in them. But I think as a playing mindset, you try your absolute best to not allow any shots on goal. So when you've got a bit of a dodgy keeper behind you, you try extra hard to not allow your opposition to get any shot away.
I'm taking that extremely personally. Sometimes the defenders don't even have. Sometimes the goalkeepers don't have faith in their defenders either. I will point out, especially when they do have a tendency to hobble off with injuries in quotation marks when that may not necessarily be the case. Just impeach.
This sounds like a you problem. I'm talking about Elland Meslier.
Really? Okay.
I don't know why you're taking it personally. I'm talking purely about
I don't know what you're
Meslier.
talking about.
This is a you problem. Elland Meslier is the centre of the conversation here. I'm not getting involved in whatever personal battle you have right now. But as I was saying, I think when you've got a situation that you can't legislate for, you've got to make sure, as I mentioned it a couple of minutes ago, you've got to be ruthless. You've got to make first contact at set pieces. You've got to kill a game off when you've got the opportunity to kill a game off. And I think that's what Leeds have really struggled with this season. They've lacked that ruthlessness in front of goal and sometimes at the back, despite having a very good defensive record. It's those moments where, as I say, Alan Brown makes first contact at that set piece. If he doesn't do that, Elland Meslier doesn't have an opportunity to drop a clanger of a lifetime. So I think with that, it's going to switch Leeds on even more. And I think Meslier will still start in goal. I think Daniel Farke will keep the faith, despite Carl Darlow, I think, won his second Wales cap at the tender age of in his 30s in midweek. So he might be coming into the game pretty confident. But I think Farke will stick with Meslier, and I think that will switch everybody else on.
The Alan Brown comment about him making first contact at the set piece is a bit of a weird one, Justin, because
but it's
you don't expect Meslier to do that.
No. But it's any sort of set piece. It's making sure you defend your territory with absolute ruthlessness. And, you know, I know the Alan Brown situation is very unique because Meslier is
probably a poor example is what I would say.
No, it's not, because despite Alan Brown putting a wayward cross in, if he's marked tighter, he doesn't have space to do that.
Was that a cross? He just cannoned off his shin pretty much.
Yeah, it was a bad pass, but that could have fallen to a Sunderland player, and a Sunderland player could have been through on goal. You know, it's staying switched on in those moments and keeping going. It's just that absolute ruthlessness a title winner needs, I think, in your defensive arsenal. And just think Leeds are missing a little bit of it. It's not that far to go, but they're just missing a little bit.
I agree with the sentiment, but I think the example you used there is a bit bizarre. But look, going back to that Sunderland game, we saw Junior Firpo storm off down the tunnel after the game in frustration, didn't we? And a lot of Meslier's teammates will have probably been pretty annoyed about that clanger. And now, while I'm not sure whether there'll be any residual frustration aimed at him, the Leeds players will definitely be frustrated with just 2 wins in 5 games, and will surely be aware that they haven't been playing as well as they can be. So they'll be heading into this with a bit of pressure on their shoulders, and it won't be helped by the fact that they won't be packed full of confidence in their goalkeeper now, because you hear ex-pros talk about it all the time, how important it is for defenders to have faith in the man behind them. That faith won't be as high as it could be, as you were alluding to, Justin.
It's important, I don't think, to be too harsh on Meslier, because actually no,
he's never been the most convincing of goalkeepers. I think that's fair to say. He does have the odd game where you're like, yeah, okay, he is a really good shot stopper, but then he does have the odd moment. Like, I mean, the Sunderland one's a pretty extreme example, but he has had the odd rick in him, hasn't he?
There are occasions where the ball goes straight through him if it's shot at him at a near post scenario. But I think with Leeds, he's been the first choice for years now, and I don't think he's been as terrible as these mistakes make him out to be. And I think that's just the part and parcel of being a goalkeeper. You get these things get magnified to a T. But as I say, I think collective responsibility is where Leeds go from here. And yes, it was Meslier's fault, because no one should be in that situation that he was in. But defensively, take responsibility, don't give the free kick away, etc. There's lots of scenarios that you can eradicate that potential there. So I think, that ruthlessness that I was talking about, that's what Leeds need to adopt.
Well, Manor Solomon and Dan James will both be available for this one after coming back from injuries, so that's a boost for Leeds. And we were talking yesterday just about Leeds potentially signing ex-West Ham midfielder Cheku Kouyaté on a free transfer. Well, perhaps in a sign that they may be looking elsewhere. Francis Coquelin, the former Arsenal midfielder, is reportedly now training with Leeds, and it's very much one of those where you go, oh yeah, I forgot about him.
Yeah, he's been in Spain for a while, hasn't he? He's been at Valencia and Villarreal. He was part of Villarreal's Europa League winning side under Unai Emery, which I thought was really incredible. Clearly got a lot of pedigree, but it's going to be a race to see who passes the medical first, because Coquelin's injury record isn't as clean as Kouyaté's either. So the medical history of both these players is quite interesting. But it's an extra body midfield, which we rinse and repeat what we said yesterday about Kouyaté.
Yeah, 33 years old. Surprised to see that. Doesn't feel like he's that old, but he is. And of
26.
course, he has actually played in the Championship before with Charlton, which is often one of those forgotten spells from early on in his career. But yeah, be interesting to see if that one does come off. But Justin, guess what? It's now time for our second tier bet builder, and our friends at SBK, they're offering a 25% boost on any bet builder for Leeds v Sheffield United, and offers like that combined with SBK's industry leading odds make it the best place to bet on the EFL. And if you don't believe us, sign up today. Find out for yourself. So every Friday, we're making our own bet builder with 4 selections all relating to our game of the week. So that's 2 for Justin and 2 for myself. Justin Peach, kick us off. What is your first selection, dear boy?
I've gone with Largi Ramazani to have a shot on target. Now, we've seen some very bright moments from Ramazani so far in his very short Leeds career. And he can be a difference maker in a tight game, which is what I expect this to be. However, he's also a prolific shot taker. And I think in just 343 minutes of football, he's averaging 1.8 shots per game. Sounds low, but Nonto is averaging 2.6 in double the amount of minutes. So in Ramazani's very short Leeds career, he's taken a lot of shots on goal. So if then anyone on that pitch who's going to sting the palms of Mike Cooper, Sheffield United goalkeeper here, it could well be Ramazani.
Yeah, he's a larger-than-life character, isn't he? And
yes.
He loves to shoot. He's had a shot on target in each of his 3 games prior to the Sunderland game last time out. And even in that game, he had 4 shots. So just under evens, this looks a good shout for the old bet builder. My first selection is Leeds under 2.5 cards. Yes, it's Ryan's card pick of the week here on the old bet builder. And I've gone a bit cautious this week. And that's because the referee for this one is a lad called Lewis Smith. Now, he's a lovely lad, is old Lewis. Won't say boo to a goose. But he's been very stingy with his cards this season. No Championship referee is averaging fewer cards per game than him this season. He's averaging just 2 cards a game in the old Champo. He has been in charge of 11 games so far this season across all competitions, not just in the Championship, and he's only given the home team more than 2 cards in 1 game this season out of 11. So that's my thinking behind this pick, Justin, of Leeds under 2.5 cards. What's your next selection, my man?
I've gone with under 3.5 goals, or 3.5 goals. Under 3.5 obviously gives us some buffer, and if these two sides, statistically the best defensive teams in the Championship, are going to live up to the billing, it's going to be a low-scoring game. There also hasn't been over 3 goals scored in this fixture since 2005. Been a long old time. Nearly 20 years by my maths, Ryan. Nearly 20 years. It's a long time. There's not much else to say other than the defence is incredibly tight. And I think if chances are going to go, the chances are going to go few and far between. It's a Friday night fixture as well. So again, I think that plays a part in it. Under the lights of Bramall Lane, Chris Wilder's going to tighten things up. I would dare say a 1-0 win, but sensibly going under 3.5.
Yeah, I think all you had to say was 2 very good defences, to be honest. I think that was pretty much all the evidence you need, because as you were alluding to earlier, 2 of the best defences in the league. I struggle to see Sheffield United coming at this game, flying out the blocks. I think they'll be wanting to soak up as much pressure from Leeds as possible. So I think low number of goals in this game is the right way to go. And the final selection for our bet builder is Sheffield United double chance, which, usual reminder, means we are basically saying Sheffield United won't lose. I find this game to be a really difficult one to call, and Sheffield United obviously unbeaten, but haven't blown me away so far. Leeds have looked sensational on occasion, but we've seen them more often than not be flat this season. So calling this one with any conviction is difficult, but I just look at the odds for Leeds in this one. Odds on favourite. I struggle to get behind that. So yes, Leeds are at home. Elland Road crowd can sometimes inspire them to a win, but I think you get better value for money if you go with Sheffield United not to lose. Because as I say, they are unbeaten. I reckon they'll be going there looking to frustrate them. And Leeds could find it difficult to break down that defence, which has only conceded 3 goals in 9 games. And I would say Sheffield United would take a point at Elland Road. Anything else is a bonus. Would you say that's fair, Justin?
Oh yeah, I think I've spoken about when we were previewing the Leeds Burnley game earlier on in the season. I think any team who comes away from Elland Road with at least a point, you'd be buzzing with that, because it is a difficult place to go. It's a difficult place to get points. Can be volatile under the lights on a Friday night. Certainly be the case.
Yeah, absolutely. And a £10 stake on that returns £80 thanks to SBK's 25% boost. A quick reminder of our selections. We've got large at Ramazani to have a shot on target. Leeds under 2.5 cards, under 3.5 goals, and Sheffield United double chance. A £10 stake on that returns £80 thanks to SBK's 25% boost. But remember, if you don't fancy our bet builder with SBK, you can create your own bet builder from a range of markets. T's and C's apply. Over 18s only. And please do gamble responsibly. Because it's the preview show brought to you by SBK, we're now making some predictions for the weekend. And what we do here is Justin and I will each pick a banker, a team we think is guaranteed to win this coming weekend, as well as an outsider. So someone we think is going to win, but is bigger odds with our friends at SBK than their opponents. We're tracking how we do as the season goes on. It's 1 point for a correct banker, 2 points for an outsider. Whoever loses has to do a forfeit, which is to be a mascot at an EFL game next season. Right now, it looks like I'll be holding the hand of some EFL captain next season, because it's not looking very good for me. The current scores are 11-5 to Justin Peach, which is quite a big gap. Yeah. It's not going too well for old Ryan D, I'm afraid, ladies and gents. Justin has took a commanding lead at this early stage.
I'm not really surprised, because I am the true expert. It was a game. It was a game last year, and now it's not.
Okay.
It's real life, and as I say, not much else to expand upon here.
Well, we'll see how that gets on as the season goes on, because Justin's been giving it some big licks so far this season. We'll see if you can back it up as the season progresses. Still a long way to go, ladies and gents. Still a long way to go. But let's see how we get on this weekend. Justin Peach, what is your banker?
How about this for a big lick, Ryan? Sunderland to win away at Hull on Sunday afternoon. I'm going to be honest. I do not like the bankers this weekend. Do not like them at all. There was not many that I was thinking, okay, that's a guaranteed 3 points there. And being the expert I am, I'm actually terrible at predicting the bankers. Been better at predicting the outsiders, so we'll eradicate that. But being the expert I am, I'm good at picking nonetheless. Look, I'm going to go with one of the best sides in the division to come up against a Hull side that do leak a chance or two. There is nervousness that Sunderland could come back into this international break, as they did the last one, and lose. Obviously lost to Plymouth coming back out of that September international break. But I think with this Hull team, you've got a side there who, despite winning 3 games in a row, they're going to be a team this season, I think, who are going to go win 3 games, lose 3 games, win 3 games, lose 3 games. It's going to be that sort of up and down season for Hull as Tim Bolter continues to get to grips with the championship, but also the players really instilling his system. And Norwich really put Hull to the sword just before the international break. And with Sunderland looking resilient and courageous with their youngsters, I could see another decent win here. As I say, we'll caveat it with I didn't like the banker picks this weekend. There wasn't too many that stuck out to me, but top side Sunderland against a team who do concede a lot of chances. I'll go with Sunderland to beat Hull.
Sounds like he's making excuses already, doesn't it, ladies and gents? But look, both these teams are front-footed, aren't they? Hull, very much so. Possibly a bit too much so at times. So we should get goals here. Sunderland will almost certainly get something because Hull have only kept one clean sheet so far this season. So they'll definitely score at least one from the looks of it. But I think Hull will lay a few punches on Sunderland as well. So I've got high hopes for this game as a spectacle on Sunday afternoon. Got to be said, a tough week coming up for Hull, Justin. They've got this game, obviously. Then they've got Burnley at home on Wednesday. Then they're away at Derby, who are brilliant at home. So I get the sense we're about to get a real acid test with Hull because they got those 3 wins in a row. That was great. But it wasn't against the strongest of opposition, was it? Before that, they were shocking. So this week is a real test of those little tiger cojones, isn't it?
Those little... They're going to have to be big cojones if they're going to try and play the way they want to as well under Tim Volter. They're going to have to carry him in a wheelbarrow because I think, they've got that Burnley game who we've seen that can pick apart opposition very easily. They are quick on the counter-attack, although Scott Parker Ball, as we have described on occasion, is very boring and bland. But Hull are going to leave spaces in behind their defence at times. They're going to leave gaps, and it's all about how switched on your opposition is because they can be exploited. As you say, it is a big week, really big week for Hull, but I think Tim Volter's given himself a plenty of buffer. And they'll be exciting over the next week. They will be exciting, but they'll be frustrating as well. And that's just where they're at.
It's worth mentioning that Hull's vice-chairman, Tan Kessler, has left the club. He was seen as Achonila Charlie's right-hand man and had a big say on transfers. It's come as a bit of a shock to Hull fans. Many seem quite worried about this news, so definitely one to monitor. It is the second Tan to leave Hull, with the first one obviously being Phil Brown. Let's go on to my banker for the weekend. Ladies and gents, it's Luton to beat Watford in the M1 derby on Saturday lunchtime. This is a huge game. A huge game. A derby I would definitely put in the underrated category. I've said that with a couple of derbies so far this season, but this one is a proper tasty one because they despise each other. But this will also be only the 5th time they've played each other in the past 18 years. So maybe that's why it's perhaps not getting the recognition it deserves as a derby sometimes. But anyway, it's going to be a feisty one, this one, but I fancy the Hatters. And the main reason for that is because this is absolutely must win for Rob Edwards. It's about as must win as it gets for him, really, because Luton have been properly stinking out the place. There's no denying that. 2 wins all season, and they were shocking in their last game at Sheffield United, to the point where it looked like Rob Edwards was in serious danger of going, and there were even rumours over the international break that he had gone. So with that being said, if they don't get a result here, that will only sour things further, quite dramatically as well, considering it's the big rivals at home. So it's sink or swim time for Luton and Rob Edwards. They have to be winning this, and they have got a great chance against Watford. Obviously, Watford have had a great start. There's no denying that. Their home record is very solid, but away from home, they are struggling. 3 straight losses on the road, and they've been battered in their last couple of away trips as well, including a 3-0 loss away at Preston, of all teams. So Luton have to be looking at this as a massive game for them. And that's not just because of the derby aspect, but for where they go next in terms of their short-term future.
Yeah, this being a banker is a stressful one. Luton's form has been poor, and Watford they've been okay. They've been largely okay. And I think on the counter-attack as well, they're a very nifty side. And obviously, as we were talking about yesterday, boosted by the return of Paul Robinson in the coaching staff, which might play a significant role, probably won't. But there's a player who understands the Watford-Luton rivalry, having come through the ranks at Watford and been a very prominent player there. So you definitely need him making a speech before a game. But I think with Luton, they've been so poor, so poor. I'd have stayed away from this game massively. Obviously, it being a derby, cliche is it's going to be tight. It's going to be angry at times, volatile at times. But with this, I can't put any trust into Rob Edwards getting a tune out of this Luton team until we see it one game after the next over the spell of 5 or 6 games, because they've won games like Millwall earlier on in the season, looked really poor, looked really bland and disappointing, despite coming away with 3 points. just not seeing more from this Watford team under Tom Cleverley than we've seen under Rob Edwards, Luton under Rob Edwards this season.
Yeah, that's completely fair, Justin. Completely fair. But I just think Luton have got to be better. They can't be any worse than they were against Sheffield United, because that was as bad as it's got so far this season. So I'm kind of hanging on to the idea that there'll be some sort of a response to that performance. And look, if the players really want Rob Edwards to stay on as manager, then they need to go out there and give their all for him, don't they? Because otherwise he may not be longing for the Luton job any longer.
Do you think a defeat here could cost him his job because of the form he's been in, and obviously losing to your rivals straight after an international break? It's a really, really risky, thin tightrope Rob Edwards is on.
Yeah, well, 100%. I mean, he was getting to the stage where, even though Rob Edwards is so loved by Luton fans and has done so much for the club, where if he went over the international break, I wouldn't have been massively shocked because of how bad Luton have been. I don't think a lot of neutrals realise how bad they've been, and now the fans have started to almost turn on Rob Edwards a bit. So, I mean, if you lose at home to your biggest rivals, then that's not going to improve things, is it? That's only going to make things worse. So that's why this is an absolute must-win game, not just for Luton, but for Rob Edwards in particular. So there we go. There are mine and Justin's two bankers for the weekend. And every week we combine these two selections with a bet on the full-time result of our game of the weekend to create our very own second-tier featured multiple with SBK. So this week we're going for Luton and Sunderland both to win, and Sheffield United double chance. And get this, people. This weekend, SBK are offering a 20% ACCA boost for the Championship. So a £10 bet on our multiple returns £110. Whew. And with SBK, you can create your own multiple with 3 or more bets on the full-time result of any game from across the Championship. And for any ACCA with a minimum of 3 selections, you'll get a 20% boost. That's very generous of them. That offer expires at 3 p.m. on Saturday. T's and C's apply. Over 18s only. Please gamble responsibly. Right, it's outsider time, people. Justin Peach, kick us off.
I've gone with Swansea to win away at Blackburn. Swansea have been really steady. The definition of steady, and form suggests that as well. 3 wins, 3 draws and 3 losses. And I still think Luke Williams is finding that perfect balance of your side that we're yet to see really flourish. Not been killing games off, and probably could argue if they'd have done that, they'd have got more points on the board. Game I go back to as an example is the Cardiff game, where they really should have put Cardiff to the sword, but they didn't, and they were pegged back. That being said, we might be seeing as well the Blackburn's results starting to drop off and level out a bit after an incredible start to the season. Back-to-back defeats for John Eustace's side against Coventry and Plymouth suggest the team might be dropping off. I will add that Swansea are winners in 3, which is probably why they're an outsider here. But I've put up 3 solid displays in that time, despite not coming away with any wins. It'll be a tight game, but Swansea might edge it. I will also mention that Blackburn are unbeaten at home, and Swansea have won just 1 game away. So as far as an outsider goes, this is ballsy. This is very ballsy.
Then why are you picking it?
Then why am I picking it? Because I've got a lot of belief in Luke Williams, and as I say, I think Blackburn's form, I think is starting. We are starting to see that drop off. So I just think with the quality that Swansea do display at times, they might have a game where they need 1 or 2 chances to find the net, and I think they have done that. You go their away game to Coventry, where they didn't play particularly great, but came away with a 2-1 win because they found space in the box on 2 occasions with Liam Cullen and Ollie Cooper and put the chances away. Don't think Blackburn will give them too much, but it's an outside for a reason.
Well, it's been quite a chaotic international break for Swansea. First of all, the sporting director, Paul Watson, left the club, which came somewhat out of the blue. Don't think many people saw that one coming. So interesting to know what's happened there. And then Swansea's new South Korean winger, Umji-sung, was ruled out for nearly 2 months with a knee injury. So a bit of a shaky couple of weeks. Ji-sung has impressed Swansea fans quite a lot. Luke Williams has said that he needs to improve in certain aspects, but he has been getting better. And then now has had this bit of a setback. But has that been factored into your thinking at all, Justin?
I did see that Im Ji-sung was injured for 6 weeks, but I know we've gone on about their strength in depth not being particularly great. and their starting 11 is very good, Swansea, but I don't think the sporting director leaving Paul Watson is going to impact the team too much. Ji-sung might be a big one, but I think Luke Williams, the handbrake might come off a little bit as well. I think that's another thing you got to consider with Luke Williams. Might allow this team to flourish a little bit more and go out and attack and get at Blackburn, because I think they're in a position, Blackburn, where they can be got at. So, yes, it is a difficult one for games this weekend, but I think Swansea have got the quality to nick a win at Ewood Park.
I would say the contrast in the first 11 to the squad depth is massive at Swansea. I think it's the biggest there than it is at any other club in the Championship. It's ridiculous how paper thin their squad is, but how decent their starting 11 is. So when you lose someone like Ji-sung, that's not ideal. But Adam Reach and Cyrus Christie have been training with Swansea this week, so be interesting to see if they get signed up. It's always good to hear their names mentioned, I suppose. Let's go to my outsider for the weekend. I've gone with Norwich to win away at Stoke on Saturday afternoon, and this is a tasty one for the old narrative, because it's a meeting between Johannes Hoff-Thorup and the man who was working under him until just a few weeks ago, Narcis Palach. He was, of course, a coach at Norwich until Stoke came along. So it just adds a little bit of spice to this one. But look, I was surprised Stoke were the marginal favourites for this one, because Norwich have been flying. Over their last 4 games, it's 10 points from an available 12. 12 goals scored, 4 conceded. Hofball has been in full flow recently. It has been a delight to watch, because they are banging form, particularly Boya Sainz, who's possibly the best player in the division at the time of recording, joint top scorer in the league with 7. Stoke have got a task on their hands dealing with him, let alone the rest of the problems that I'm sure Norwich will cause Stoke. But look, Narcis Palach, he's still getting to grips with this Stoke team. It's 4 points from 4 games in charge for him. Struggling going forwards, which is a bizarre thing to say about a side who scored 6 against Portsmouth a couple of weeks ago. But if you ignore that game, they've only scored 4 in 8. So was that Portsmouth game an anomaly? We'll see. Ultimately, though, Norwich are firing on all cylinders right now and have more than enough to see off Stoke. So that's why I'm going with Norwich as my outsider for the weekend. In fact, I'll say this much. My eyes widened so much at Norwich being the outsider of this one. I was even considering putting them as my banker. But considering they were the outsider, I thought, no, that'd be a wasted pick. My thinking there, Justin. Hit me. What you got for me?
Narcis Palach. If anyone's going to get a result over a team, it's the man that was on the inside literally weeks ago. So that might play in my thinking a little bit. But I think the logic's pretty sound. Stoke are a bit, I wouldn't say they're hit and miss, but as you say, Palach is still finding his feet with his team. And I think we'll start to see some inconsistencies as he starts to try to deploy what he wants. Whereas Hofball has had a little bit more time to flourish, and it's flourishing, it's peaking at a good time, despite really not, fully getting going yet. That demolition of Hull just before the international break was a real eye opener of what a team can really do. And I think, as I say, Hoff's finding that balance. They've been much better at home than they have been away, but still picked up 6 points out of 12 away from home isn't a bad return.
Beat Derby, didn't they? They're the only team to get something from Pride Park this season so far.
Yeah, and Derby have been incredible at home for the past year and a bit. So, it's a very difficult place to go and get points, and they did that. And they did that, I wouldn't say comfortably, because Derby probably deserves something from the game, but Norwich created the better opportunities. And they are going to do that because they've got an abundance of quality going forward. So I think that's going to be the thing. The real difference maker in this game is the boy signs, is Josh Sargents, who are top players in this division. Yeah,
and it is worth mentioning that Hull game as well. Norwich could have very easily won that by more than 4-0. I think 4-0 actually flattered Hull a fair bit, because Norwich were absolutely frightening that day. And if they carry any semblance of that form into this game, then they could tear Stoke apart. So I'm very confident with this outsider, as confident as you can be with an outsider, really, this season. There we go. Those are our outsiders for the weekend. Those are our predictions for the weekend. And that must mean, ladies and gents, it's time for this.
All right. Settle down, you lot. It's time for the Craig Bryson pub quiz.
Yes, it is, Mr. Barman. It's the Craig Bryson pub quiz, and this is how it works. I'm going to give Justin 6 clues about a Championship player, past or present, each more revealing than the next. And he simply has to guess who it is. They must have made over 200 Championship appearances in their career, and don't forget the Dexter Blackstock rule. Justin, I've got to say, this is a really good one. I'm very proud of this CBPQ. And it may be one that trips you up a bit. And I will point out, by the way, none of us have got one wrong yet this season. Neither of us have got a Craig Bryson pub quiz wrong yet this season. So you could be the first here.
I could be the first. I mean, it all depends on whether or not he's in line with that Dexter Blackstock rule, which we can decide at the end.
I would be surprised if you don't think he is. But we'll see how you get on. We'll see how you get on, Peachy. Your first clue is this. I have 207 appearances at Championship level, scoring 34 goals.
That's a winger. 207 appearances. Pablo Hernandez.
Pablo Hernandez. It's not, but always good to hear old Pablo mentioned. Your second clue, Justin Peach. I made my professional debut in 2002 for Northampton Town, but left after making just 28 appearances. I then dropped into non-league football, where I got a part-time job at a shredding company. I would keep playing non-league football until just before my 26th birthday. 26th birthday, Justin.
So he made his debut in 2002, aged around about 18. So that must mean he may have come into the Championship, maths, in 2010.
Yeah, well done. It's definitely not Pablo Hernandez.
It's definitely not Pablo Hernandez. That famous spell at Northampton he had when he was 18 years old.
The shredding company.
I don't know. I'll go with, it's not Bradley Johnson either. But he did come through at Northampton. I don't know. Jason Crowe.
Jason Crowe. I'm not really sure who Jason Crowe is, but it's not Jason Crowe. Your third clue is this. Not only have I played a lot in the Championship, I made 53 appearances in the Premier League with Norwich City.
Oh, it had to be Norwich. It had to be Norwich because they signed every so sort of Championship player who managed to step up into the Premier League. Okay. So that would have been sort of 2012. That Chris Hughton team with that really ugly kit, that green and yellow squared kit.
With,
awful.
Was it Aviva as the logo?
Yeah, well, Aviva's been sponsors for 20 years. Okay. The Norwich thing's a big giveaway, I think. But I can't think of any Norwich players or former Norwich players.
Dear, that's quite problematic, isn't it, Justin Peach?
It is. It's a stress.
Shall I move on?
I'll shout Wes Hoolahan out there.
It's not Wes Hoolahan. Of course it's not. This is your fourth clue. Despite being born in Enfield, I have 20 caps for the Welsh national team, scoring 1 goal.
Steve Morrison.
Bollocks. How? How did you get that from the Welsh national team bit?
Northampton was a giveaway.
Was it?
He did drop into I've actually very methodically placed things in my head quite well there because he came into the Championship late with Millwall, obviously. Started off in League One.
I'm so annoyed about that.
Yeah. And that Norwich spell was pretty forgetful.
I'm so annoyed because I thought there were so many red herrings in there. You know, the lack of goals in the Championship. I was amazed that he only scored 34 goals in 207 games at Championship level. And then
it's not
amazing, is it? But then the Norwich spell, I completely forget he played for Norwich. And then playing for Wales, 20 caps for the Welsh national team. I don't remember that at all. So I just thought there'd be enough in there to throw you off.
No, I think the Welsh national team probably made that easy for me.
Did it?
Because of that Norwich link. But I don't think 30-odd goals in 200 games, 200 or so games, isn't a bad return for a target man, to be honest with you.
You said he was a winger initially.
I did.
I just thought, it's funny how the brain works with the Craig Bryson pub quiz, because I think I would have been completely thrown off by the Welsh national team picks. I think I would have been thinking about that so much when I completely forgot he played for Wales. The final two clues, just in at Championship level, I've played for just two clubs, Leeds United and most notably Millwall, of course. And I'm currently a manager in non-league, but I was managing in the Championship 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, he's at Sutton now, isn't he?
Yeah, Sutton United. My
squabbling with journalists.
Yeah, that's the main thing I think of with Steve Morrison, is how mardy he is when it comes to dealing with the press, particularly that very cringe-worthy interview he did last season, I think it was.
Yeah, with a young journalist.
A young journalist who he was given a bit of stick to. Don't hear that from us. Listen to it for yourself. Decide what you want from that incident. But there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Steve Morrison, the answer to this weekend's Craig Bryson pub quiz. And that means we've still got a 100% streak going for the old Craig Bryson pub quiz this season, ladies and gents. Let's see if that continues as time goes on. But ladies and gents, this has been the second tier preview show brought to you by SBK. We'll be back again on Sunday when we'll be reacting to all the weekend's action. So we look forward to seeing you then for that. But this has been the second tier podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.